whose quotation it is. The date of the quotation is 23rd May. So that would have been 4 days after Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi returned from Europe. And what the quotation is for, item 1, active monitoring system including laptop software and one multi-RAT BTS. That's multi-radio access technology-based technology system. That is a GRABER. Item 1 is a GRABER. The price per unit for the GRABER is 780,000 euros, which at the time would have been, gosh, I haven't done the equation, but it would have been somewhere between 15 and 18 million rands, I would imagine. Optional, 2 multi-rat BTSs. So you could have an additional extra set of GRABERs which would come at 150,000 per unit. And you could also get a tactical DDS jammer. And a DDS stands for direct digital synthesis, and what a DDS jammer is digital technology that can essentially block out can be trained on particular frequencies very quickly and can block out other people's mobile communications. So you can shut off everybody else's mobile access with a jammer. That quotation is issued by Themistal, a company in which Mr. Motsumi, Mr. Molefe, and Mr. Msibi have a central role in, and it comes 4 days after the return from Europe of Mr. Msibi and Mr. Motsumi. And we don't see what becomes of this quotation, whether it ever gets taken up by anyone. We don't know to whom it was addressed either. We do know that it was exchanged between Mr. Molefe and Mr. Msibi. But if we can just step back and take stock at what we're looking at here, because it is quite alarming. Mr. Msibi, Mr. Motsumi, Mr. Molefe, and possibly Sergeant Nkosi are involved, well, Sergeant Nkosi is certainly involved with Mr. Msibi in one project. Mr. Msibi, Mr. Motsumi, and Mr. Molefe are involved in another. The extent to which Mr. Motsumi and Mr. Molefe were involved in the first project is not clear. Anyway, they're involved in a commercial project. The commercial project involves the selling of high-tech surveillance, digital surveillance systems and jamming technology. The 3 people we're talking about have received some coverage in this commission. Mr. Msibi has been described by General Kumalo, as the head of crime intelligence, as the then leader of the Big Five organized crime cartel. Mr. Molefe is currently on trial for murder in a matter involving firearms that can be linked to more than 30 other murder scenes in Gauteng in the last 5 years. Mr. Motsumi is someone whose name General Sonona, when he was still head of the Hawks, was too scared to mention. These 3 men are dealing with foreign companies to get access to GRABER technology, purporting to represent a state. And then, at least in the case of Mr. Msibi, they seem to be looking to sell that technology to the Eswatini government. In that first episode, the first case that we saw. whether or they didn't manage, it seems, in that case, to sell to the Eswatini government. They may well have managed in this case. We just don't know. But whether or not they are managing to sell the technology to a foreign state, they presumably can also have access to it for their own purposes. They are able to deal with the providers of this technology. They are being invited to sign contracts with the providers of this technology, in the case of Infosys, on the basis that they represent the South African state. This is a worrying state of affairs, a very worrying state of affairs. This is the sort of technology that should only go into the hands of intelligence agencies who are then constrained to use it under fairly strict legislative controls. But what we have here is private parties passing themselves off as representatives of states and trading in this, or trying to trade in this technology.
Mr. Chaskalson, that brings me to the question that I was going to ask. And I know that the presentation of this evidence today has been sprung on you. The question I meant to ask is, have we gone so far as to establish whether private entities and individuals can lawfully be in possession under South African law of a GEMA and a GRABER? Have we gone that far?
A JAMA I can't speak to. A GRABER I can say with some confidence is not something that any private entity ought lawfully to be entitled to use, because digital surveillance, interception of communications, which is what a GRABER is for, is something regulated by statute, which requires judicial warrant. And judicial warrants are not given to private parties to intercept communications.
Are we able to get that on affidavit from a witness who's part of the government or intelligence agencies?
I will look into it, and we will, one way or another, we will establish this point. It may be a simple issue of law having regard to the interception. I think it's called the Interception of Communications Act. But
I'm concerned about the types, because it may be that some are regulated and therefore members of the public are not or should not be able to access them. But some devices may be allowed for use by private entities, mobile companies, and other people. So if we can just get that clarity from somebody who has knowledge of these kinds of things, to avoid having to burden you with the answers.
No, we will certainly get an expert in the field to explain this all to us.
We don't want to force you to do research and give us answers. If an expert is able to provide us with an affidavit, then I think that should suffice.
We will ensure that it's done. That takes us to the end of this GRABER episode. The next.
Before you go to the next, I know you're not a witness, and you're not, and you're not an expert in this. Just I'm trying to wrap my head around a GEMA as against a GRABER. I think I've understood what how a GRABER would work. A GEMA would do what? Would at least
for
criminal activity.
Well, I mean, at a very low level, a JAMA stops your remote control on your car from locking your car when you get out the car. So a lot of small-time criminals have access to JAMAs, which are used, and I'm sure some of us have had that experience. You get out your car, you think you've locked it, you haven't locked it because the signal's been jammed and someone steals something from your car while while you've gone into the shop. At a much more grand scale, what a jammer can do is block communications, can stop people communicating on their cell phones.